Hey, everybody, welcome to the Art of Relationship show. Got a special guest, Dr. Larry Waldman, teen, child, step family, family court system specialist, has been around for a lot of years, over twice as long as I have, for over 50 years. I've been doing this 21 years, so we're going to be talking about some insights. If you're having challenges with step family and integrating, everyone talks about step family, blended family, and in my take, there is a difference between a blended family and a step family. Everybody assumes, it's supposed to be blended very easily and everything's just supposed to slide into place. And as a lot of people over the years I have worked with, and I'm sure Dr. Larry has worked with as well over the years, it doesn't go as smoothly as anticipated. And we're going to provide some insights. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back, and I'll be bringing Dr. Larry on. So, again, be right back right after this. Hey, welcome everybody to Art of Relationship show. Let me introduce Dr. Larry. We'll bring him on. Here he is, Dr. Larry Waldman. Are you currently still in Arizona?
Not at the moment. I'm in my summer residence. Excuse me.
Okay. Hold on. Michiganders go to Arizona as their, winter residence. So
yeah, not in the summer though.
Not in the summer. No, it's too hot, right?
And that's why I'm in my condo in California on the beach.
Oh, nice. Right. Very nice.
Right.
And
I spend 9 months of the year in Arizona.
Oh, very nice. So would you be so kind, introduce yourself. I know you've been in the field a long time, and about your special area working with kids in the court system, and what advice you would have for step family dynamics. And we'll talk about this. And as everybody knows, join in the live chat, throw in the comments down below any questions you have. And I know this is an area where a lot of people need help in. So,
Sure.
Promote your books, please. Let people know about your books that can help them as well.
Well, thank you. Yes, I had a long, diversified career, if you will. I started out in the early 70s as a school psychologist with Scottsdale Schools, which is essentially a suburb of Phoenix, and did that for 7 years. At the same time, I completed my doctorate at Arizona State University. And in 1979, I entered the world of private practice. I started seeing children, families, couples, and then gradually my practice diversified, and I also did a lot of professional speaking around the country on various topics. Again, typically on families, parenting. In fact, I just did one last week on to 80-some mental health professionals on
nice.
Counseling parents to raise responsible, resilient kids, and so on. Around 98 or so, I moved into the forensic arena, and then started spending a lot of time in Maricopa court system, which is basically the county of Phoenix, Arizona. And I became very involved with the family law system. I did a lot of work in personal injury in areas like that. I have done a fair amount of writing. And my articles are available on my website, which is Top Phoenix Psychologist, all one word, .com. I probably have 36 articles or more, most of which have been published either in the local media in Phoenix and some in the national media as well. My first book that came out in the mid-'80s, and there's since been a second edition, is entitled Who's Raising Whom? A Parent's Guide to Effective Child Management. The follow-up book came a couple of years later, which is entitled Coping with Your Adolescent. I like to say, if you didn't read Who's Raising Whom, you're definitely going to need to read Coping with Your Adolescent.
I was gonna say that's especially in this day and age, and we can talk about that with the parenting aspects about even especially with the step family. You don't want to anger the kids in this. I don't know if you want to call it generation about irresponsible. Would that be entitled children, and does it come from, let's face it, who's raising who? And it's ironic, and I should have it up here, and I'll post it too on social media.
Sure.
It's like the puppet master are the kids, right?
Exactly.
And I love the book cover. I love the book cover of that. And no, I love that. So yeah, go right ahead.
My third book came out in the early '90s, and that's my marriage manual. It's entitled How Come I Love Him But Can't Live With Him? The later '90s, another book I'm also very proud of is entitled Too Busy Earning a Living to Make Your Fortune. That one is, came from, and a lot of these books first off, I stole the titles from many of my clients.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Who said just those things. But a lot of my clients were, stuck in a rut, and I can't tell you how many times I heard people say, "Gee, I wish I did this. I wish I was a teacher. I wish I was a nurse. I wish I could get to Paris. I wish," and so on.
Right.
A lot of wishing, but not much happening. Let's see, early 2000s. I with a colleague of mine. He's a business analyst. I wrote Overcoming Your Negotiophobia. We coined that word. Negotiating your way through life. And then the book that has been very successful came out in about 2018 or so, 18, 19, was The Graduate Course You Never Had, How to Develop, Manage, and Market a Thriving Mental Health Practice.
Terrific.
And that's my practice development manual.
And
then during COVID, I think it came out early in 22. Was my final book, probably my final book, we'll see. The book entitled Love Your Child More Than You Hate Your Ex, What Every Divorced Parent Needs to Know.
And and we could talk about that. All the books are amazing, and I can't wait to read the one about the practice. Sure. And mental health practice, and people are like, "Oh, I could care less about that, Greg. Get into the parenting." And I love love your child more than your ex. And how many people we look at with exes and with step family dynamics, that you are looking at, everyone talks about you're battling the ex. If it wasn't for my ex, things would be a lot easier if we got along better. And there's a lot of that philosophy about, and I've done it. I've given numerous presentations on divorce and co-parenting and step family dynamics here in Michigan. Excuse me. And looking at, in theory, it's great, but how do you put it in the practice and get people to buy into it and to put their egos, their pride away, and to look at, okay, this is in the best interest of the kids without, and this is the tough part, as you know, without selling yourself out and getting screwed over all the time. What
Sure.
what are your insights, Dr. Larry, on that?
Well, first off, when it comes to successful, step families or blended families,
Yes.
I have to. They have my congratulations.
It's tough.
Because there's so many balls in the air, so many factors, that interfere, with blended families, and it takes a great deal, an amazing amount of effort to keep your mind focused and your eye on the ball, if you will. In other words, recognizing that who comes first are the kids.
Yes.
I mean, there's no doubt about it.
No.
You have to consider where the kids come from. There's this old saying, of course, in this business, that the major stresses on any relationship, even first marriages, not to mention subsequent ones, are money, sex, in-laws, and kids. Okay,
What about the outlaws?
That's exactly right.
I joke with the in-laws outlaws, right?
Absolutely, that's right. Yeah, but as we soon come to understand, of course, when we marry someone, we marry their family as well. And sometimes you're fortunate, and sometimes we're not. But think about it. If you are now in a blended family, meaning that now you've remarried, okay, and there's a good chance that your new spouse has also remarried.
Yes.
Remember now, not only are you dealing now with your new spouse's parents and so forth, but you also still have to deal with your ex-spouse's in-laws too, even though you're no longer married to their child. Because they, as grandparents, which I am, by the way, I'm a grandparent, and we tend to forget about that when we talk about blended families.
Yes.
Those grandparents have a right to have a connection with their grandchildren.
Absolutely.
And those grandchildren, of course, have the right to remain in touch with their original grandparents.
Absolutely.
It's
healthy. It's healthy for the kids.
Absolutely.
And I say, Larry, and I talk, and that's where, the difference I sort of maybe, I talk about, step families and blended families are, two people with kids, they get together and they have another kid. They have a kid together. And with the grandparents, what is your advice with, and people have to remember in step families, like Larry, you mentioned about, the kids were there. They were there first before that new relationship formed. And that's where I said it's more of a balancing act with, if you want to call it traditional, nuclear, whatever normal looks like, first time marriages, relationships, and you have a kid or kids together. I always say, the relationship needs to come first. So you have that hierarchy and the kids don't pit mom against dad, dad against mom. But now a step family dynamic is so different because the kids were there before that relationship. And what is your advice as far as the step parent, as far as the parenting role in the hierarchy in that relationship? And I'll provide my insights, and we'll see if we clash a little bit. No, hopefully not, but
well, first off, this new relationship has to evolve.
Yes.
And one of the mistakes that I have seen over the decades is that, people tend, who are recently divorced, they tend to recouple very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Too quickly, unfortunately. I understand, I get it. You just come out of a committed relationship. Someone you once cared for now has rejected you, and so on. So you're vulnerable, and you meet somebody, and they seem to be paying you attention, and they're saying nice things to you and so forth. I mean, that's like cocaine. I mean, you want as much of that as you can get.
And then
So,
you throw in horniness too, right? No.
hey, absolutely, yes. And so what happens then is, bam, this relationship forms very, very quickly.
Yes.
And then what happens, of course, is that you then almost immediately introduce this new person, to the kids. Like, bam, here's your new daddy or your new mommy, and so on. And the kids are going, wait a minute here.
They're shaking their head. They're spinning around.
Exactly. And it's like, wait a minute, are parents interchangeable? Are they like, checkers? You get a king bee, you get a new, whatever. No. So first and foremost, I suggest that you go slowly. I recommend that if you've just left, a committed relationship, you need to get into counseling, learn more about yourself, learn why that relationship didn't work, uh, understand that your ex's role in it, and importantly, your role in it, so you don't replicate that in the next relationship, as happens so often. So I recommend a minimum of 9 months of counseling, and so on before you even begin to think about getting into another committed relationship. You can go out and so on. You can socialize, of course, but take the better part of a year, and so on, to get yourself into a new committed relationship. Now, once you do, you also have to look at this person not only in terms of, is this person good for me, but is this person good for my kids?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to tie the knot, and in fact, in my marriage book, I have a chapter that's entitled "Examine the Rope Before You Tie the Knot." You need to really look at that now. It's not just about you anymore. It's about your kids. Is this person going to be a caring, hopefully loving, but at least caring step parent? You need to consider that, and you need to introduce him or her slowly, gradually.
Yep. And I tell people, and no, I agree with that. And I tell people, I have, over the years, a lot of people, I'm the man of the house. I'm the new woman of the house. And I tell people, you have to, my advice is to go along with that is the step parent needs to be like an uncle, an aunt, a teacher, a mentor. And if you step parents automatically roll in, they take that role of power. And I like how you said, Dr. Larry, about, oh, we just have an exchange of parents now. This is my new dad, my new mom. I'm very careful with that. And we know every situation, every dynamic is different. If, mom was never around in the child's life, dad was never around in the child's life. But I take that mentorship. That way it creates more of, okay, the biological parent is the one that is the disciplinarian. They're the ones that, make the rules, and the other one sort of supports those rules type of aspect. But I also tell people that doesn't mean that your child is able to disrespect that new step parent either, like an aunt, an uncle, a teacher. You wouldn't want your child, well, today might be different. I don't ever advise it, but you don't want your child to disrespect anybody, right? So you take that role, and it sort of takes the battles away from it, because I don't want that step parent to set themselves up for a battle to begin with. So it's very, very careful how you handle that, and you don't come in as a huge authority figure demanding respect. And I tell people respect and trust, I'm different. I tell people respect and trust have to be earned. It's not just given. You can be, of course, be courteous, be compassionate, be understanding, be polite, have manners, but respect and trust have to be earned.
I agree with just about everything you've said.
Sure.
And you're absolutely right. The new step parent, or the step parent can't walk in and immediately take charge. And sometimes that happens.
Oh, yes.
That happens where the step parent walks in and says, "Oh my God, this is a mess. I need to clean this up right now." And all of a sudden they start throwing their weight around, and of course the kids resent the heck out of it, and then you really have a mess on your hand. Now, what does need to happen, and again, this step parent moves in slowly. It doesn't move in right away, but gradually spends time with the kids. Becomes a friend of the kids and so forth. They share some quality time and so on. Also, the two parents, which probably didn't happen in the first marriage, the two parents have to come together on what's the parenting plan. Okay, how are we doing this?
Expectations, right?
Exactly. If you've got one person who believes in corporal punishment and the other one doesn't, and by the way, I don't believe in it, and so forth, you've got a problem here. Okay. So you have to come together on what are our expectations, how do we manage things, and so on. Okay. Now, where I think you and I differ just a little bit.
Please.
Okay, is that once this step parent now has become formalized, in other words, they're now living there, and this relationship looks like it's going to be permanent or at least long term.
Sure.
And now they have their expectations in line. The kids have to be notified now that the step parent now has the same authority as the biological parent.
Okay.
Because let's face it, there are going to be times when the biological parent isn't even going to be there.
Correct. Okay. And that's when I said, and I agree with you 100%. That's why I said, an aunt, an uncle, a teacher, a grandparent. Right. You're going to go by their rules. So, no, I agree. We're not far off on that. Not at all.
Good. Okay. All right. And it's especially challenging if the step parent is the stepmom. Because in most cases, not all, of course, it's the mom, be it the biological mom or the stepmom, who's usually charged with most of the parenting.
Yes.
And so now here we have the step parent doing the bulk of the parenting. So the kids will ultimately have to understand that this step parent, once they're fully vetted and ingrained in the family, that they're not an outsider anymore.
Right.
Okay, and they may not like it. and this baloney of "you're not my dad" or "you're
Yeah,
not my
right.
mom"
I know.
is not going to fly anymore.
No. You're right. I'm not your father. I'm not your mother. However, you still need to follow the rules of the house.
Exactly.
And that's where those parenting expectations. It's just like an original first time relationship, marriage, have kids, and you have different parenting dynamics. Like Larry, you mentioned, more corporal, that might be in spanking, that type of stuff, or the other one is not. And now you have, with step families, it becomes intensified, because if one set of kids were raised this way and the other one was raised totally opposite, and now you have the kids seeing each other and how they're handled with discipline, and I always say there's a huge difference between discipline and punishment, those type of aspects, and consequences, and discipline. Now you can understand, and people watching this are looking, yeah, we've been through this, Greg, and it creates those aspects. And that's where, like anything with marriages, relationship, expectations are huge. And what are the household rules? Well, my kids are used to this, well, my kids are used to that. Now what do you do to try to, what's good enough for everybody? And
Right.
You're not going to make everybody happy, let's be real. And what works good, that you're in a aligned front in the household, and and it's dicey, as you know.
Sure.
It's very dicey. Or with kids, if they're at dad, they have these rules at his place, and they have rules at my place. And that's where the collaborative parenting would be great, if everybody agreed on the same rules at both houses. However, that would be, in theory, that is fantastic. That would be dynamic. However, how often does that happen in reality, right?
Well, yes, of course, it's something to strive for, and of course, again, there's complications. What we talked about just now, up to now, is that okay, you've got husband and wife, one of them's the biological, and maybe two kids with the biological parent.
Yes.
But it's not always just that simple. Sometimes the step parent comes with kids of their own as well.
Yes.
Who now are added to the mix. So maybe now you have two kids that are with the biological parent, and another kid or two, with the step parent, now all living in this family together. And now you really have to be careful, because the tendency is to maybe favor your kids over your ex, or over the step kids.
It's hard.
And you can guarantee what the kids are going to do is try to manipulate that situation and say, "No, wait a minute, how come you did this to him, but you didn't do it to me? Or how come he did this and I can't do this?" And oh my God.
And kids don't manipulate, do they?
Oh, yeah, right.
It's in their DNA.
For sure. Well, from day one, let's face it, the baby cries and gets picked up. It's manipulation from the very beginning. Right. But yes. Then it doesn't end there. No. You might have an ex out there who resents that, that their ex is now paired up.
Absolutely.
And so forth. And they're not happy about that.
No.
And so they're not in their corner, and they might be trying to subvert what's going on. So you have to watch out for that. And of course, when that happens, you can't blow up and, you try to go to court and so on. I mean, you got to take a deep breath and talk to your partner and say, "Look, what goes around comes around. Come on."
And that's where I talk about, everybody's maybe heard that now. I talk about, and that's when the emotional intelligence and trying to learn about self-soothing and being able to, hey, you know what? I want to blow up. I want to, verbally rip her head off or his head off type of thing. And that's where the emotional intelligence come in, and we have to self-soothe. And it's one of those, does that ex still have emotional power over me? And it's not easy. We we both know this. It's not easy. I think a lot of people realize this. And, you know, what is it that I can do to be able to self-soothe and still keep a calm, collected head and not have that other person have that power or to push my buttons, if you will. And it takes practice.
It does. It really does. Calming yourself, taking deep breaths, and recognizing, again, that what's still foremost, is the sanctity of the children.
Yes.
Because I can tell you, I've counseled hundreds of kids, and they've broken down in my office when they report seeing their parents go at each other. There isn't anything more traumatizing for a child, than to see this, particularly a younger child, than to see their parents go toe to toe.
And you're right. And that's where, I look at in one question, about divorce. And I'm all about, trying to preserve relationships and marriage. I mean, that's what I do. But I tell people not every marriage should be saved or can be saved, or relationship. And I tell people, one thing I'll ask parents on, why are you together? I'll ask, and the number one issue is what? The kids, right? And then I'll ask, well, would you want your kids when they get older? You might not want to think about it, right now, your kids, but when they start dating, or if they're in a relationship or get married later on, would you want them to have the same type of relationship you have? And no, not at all. Now, what can we do about it? It's a lot more damaging, and working, with kids and teens, they'd rather have their mom and dad not together and not fight anymore. You're right, Dr. Larry. It's very traumatizing on kids to witness this on a day in, day out basis.
Well, absolutely, and as I said, it's traumatizing to the child. But then when these children become teens, oh my God! Because let's face it, every teenager, regardless of how well or poorly they were raised, think their parents are stupid, out of date, and so on.
Have you ever? Were you there?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I'll own mine. I was there too, right? We all.
I am so glad my sons were not anywhere near what I was like when I was a teenager.
I got lucky too with my daughter, so I got very, very lucky.
I don't think it was luck, So,
wow.
Yes, but teenagers will go from being traumatized to being angry, and will act out. So
yes.
Plus, let's not forget, okay? Where do we learn how to parent? Where do we learn how to be married?
Right.
Unfortunately, how many people read books, on parenting or marriage? Unfortunately, not enough. So what we're doing, you see here, when these couples are engaging in this ongoing conflict, we're unfortunately teaching these kids to have a failed relationship themselves. The data is pretty clear. Kids who grow up in a situation where their parents remain acrimonious, the divorce rate is even higher than the crazy 50% nationally that it is right now.
Yeah.
But we can understand, because if their parents did it, what do we expect them to do? They don't know any better.
Yeah, there's been recent research out that are, everybody assumes, if you have a parent that cheated, you're more likely to cheat. If, your parents got divorced, you're more likely to divorce. There's been recent research that has contradicted that came out actually, 3 months ago, I believe. And I was shocked. I was actually shocked by that. And, I agree, Dr. Larry, you look at kids, what do? They model and they react, right? What they see, what they feel, and they model that behavior, how you treat each other, how you treat your significant other. And it's more of a battle with step family dynamics, because there tends to be that push, or I hate to say it, but that competition. It could be for attention, for equality, for treatment. And with step family dynamics, what are your insights as how you would handle as far as that inequality in step family dynamics? So what would you tell step families to try to come together and integrate in a healthier way?
Well, again, I fall back, on the old tried and true, and that is the focus needs to be on the kids. And I realize it's difficult. I mean, I've seen, single moms, trying to parent, their kids, and she's working too, so she's got to hold down a job and manage the kids and so forth. And
it's a lot of work.
Absolutely, and she deserves a social life too. I mean, she shouldn't have to go to the nunnery,
No.
at the same time she's raising. It's hard. It really, really is. I get it, and it is difficult. But the focus still, has to be on these children. They are vulnerable. This is a critical period. This is the learning stage here, where they're going to, what they learn here is what they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
I have two sons. They're into their 40s now here, and it really does my heart good to see them as great husbands and great parents.
Terrific.
But the reason I bring this up is that they've said to me several times, every now and then I find myself saying the same damn thing you used to say. And I remember as a kid, God, I hate that.
It pisses them off. Let's be real, right?
But now I'm doing it myself.
Yes.
Okay. So that just makes my point, you see. This gets ingrained. Okay, what you learn during this critical phase of about 2 to 12. Okay.
Yes.
And so on. This is imprinting, almost, if you will. Yeah. Where this is what you're learning, some very basic things. About what it means to be a dad, what it means to be a mom, what it means to be in a relationship, what it means to be married, etc., etc. And the funny thing is, parents aren't sitting down with them and talking specifically about these things. These kids are learning this by watching and listening. And so we are teaching them, whether we like it or not, by our own behaviors and so forth. And this teaching, as I said, is irrefutable.
No, I agree. I tell people it's not, even parents and little insights now, but more so years ago when I used to work with kids and teens, that we could, it's not what you say so much, it's what you show them. It's the actions. It's about, if your actions contradict what you're telling them, they're going by what you're watching, what you're modeling, what you're showing them visually. That type of aspect. And it is, it's not, we know that parenting, it's not easy. And step family dynamics, it's not an easier thing. And I'm all about, what do you do to try to make it easy? We know it's tough. It's a challenge, but what can we do? And there's help out there. And, before I say goodbye to everybody, Dr. Larry, please promote your website again, your books out there that people can purchase and, read about your insights after, I won't age you after all these years, right?
That's okay. The screen tells the tale. What can I say? Well, again, my website is topphoenixpsychologist.com. I'd like to say I'm available. I do coaching of mental health providers, and I do speaking around the country on various topics, some of which we've been talking about here today. Again, I'll just run through my books in the order that I wrote them. Who's Raising Whom? Coping with Your Adolescent. How Come I Love Him But Can't Live With Him? Too Busy Earning a Living to Make Your Fortune. Overcoming Your Negotiophobia. The Graduate Course You Never Had. And my last one, Love Your Child More Than You Hate Your Ex. They're available. You can see them on my website. Of course, they're available through Amazon.
Awesome.
I often do this. If you email me at LarryWaldmanPhD@cox.net and indicate that you'd like to purchase one of my books and so forth, I give a $2 discount with free shipping.
Oh, wow,
So,
awesome.
So if you want to do that, I'd be more than happy to interact with you, and you can fund my Zelle account, if you will, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. And I will further post Dr. Larry's information, and that is cox.net. That is COX, people. For people that know me and listening, that's not COCKS. That's COX.net. I'm a smart ass. I mean, I talk about anything, but just to make sure, and I will post that on YouTube, Facebook. I'll post it all over social media, in Dr. Larry's website and information. You can gain further insights. And I appreciate you being on here, Dr. Larry, for your insights very much. I'm very humbled, flattered to have you on here. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
We will talk soon, very soon. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Now, everybody, as I say goodbye, Dr. Larry, I appreciate him being on. And I will post that information. I appreciate his insights very much. And for everybody else, you can check out my website. As I'm going through puberty, again, my voice is going out, theartofrelationships.org. And you can follow. I have all the shows recorded. We do the show live, of course, but you can find all the previous show episodes on YouTube, on Facebook, probably all over the place under Love Guru Greg. And the audio version's always available on every listening platform. Just do a search for the Art of Relationships show. And again, I appreciate Dr. Larry Waldman for being a special guest today. And I appreciate you for listening and viewing the show. As always, I thank you very much. Peace and love to everybody out there. Everybody take care. Bye-bye. And very, very crucial before I let you go, a huge, deep wishes for Florida with Hurricane Ian out there. I have friends down that way as well, so my deepest wishes and thoughts are with the Floridians, okay? Peace and love, people. Take care.